Welcome to another deep dive. You wanted to know what really went down at that resort in Scottsdale with Melania and Donald Trump, right?
Right.
Was this a simple case of bad service or something more? I mean, was there more to it than meets the eye? Well, we're going to find out using the articles and firsthand accounts you provided.
You know what's interesting is this situation is it's not just a vacation gone wrong. It
Yeah.
really gets into how power dynamics can play out in the most unexpected of places.
Right.
And it really raises questions about how public perception can be shaped.
I think that's a great place to start. So let's set the scene. The Camelback Vista Resort, luxury oasis in the desert, beautiful suites, stunning views. You know, the kind of place that promises a perfect escape.
Exactly. Supposed to be.
Right.
But from the moment they arrive, Melania starts to notice these subtle cues that suggest a very different reality.
Hmm.
You know, the staff's forced smiles, the hesitant way they're treated during check-in.
Right.
It's almost like a creeping unease that starts to set in.
That's really interesting that you point that out because I noticed those details in the accounts as well.
Yeah.
It's like those small, seemingly insignificant things can really set the tone for an experience.
Absolutely. And it progresses from these subtle cues to these more overt inconveniences.
Uh-huh.
You know, you have delayed room service, incorrect orders, unanswered calls, the kind of service that would be frustrating for anyone, let alone guests paying top dollar.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone would raise an eyebrow at that.
Absolutely.
In one of the articles, Donald is quoted as saying he initially brushed it off as, just a bad day for the staff. But as these incidents piled up, his frustration understandably grew.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't be frustrated?
Yeah.
And Melania, known for her composure, she tries to remain diplomatic,
Right.
but even she picks up on this sense that something just isn't right.
Yeah.
And that's where the tension starts to build. Is it incompetence or is it something more deliberate?
Right. It starts to feel less like coincidence and more like a pattern. And then it takes a turn for the worse. A waiter is overheard muttering insults. There are whispers by the pool staff, openly mocking them.
Yeah.
One account even quotes a waiter calling Melania a foreign gold digger.
Oof. That's where it crosses a line.
Yeah.
It goes from potentially poor service to a targeted act of cruelty.
Right.
And what's particularly interesting is the ripple effect that this has on other guests.
Right.
They witness the staff's behavior and they start taking sides.
Oh, wow.
And suddenly the entire atmosphere at the resort is charged.
That's a really good point. It's no longer a private matter between them and the staff.
Right.
It becomes this public spectacle with everyone around them becoming aware of the tension and seemingly taking sides. You
Yeah.
can almost feel the temperature rising at the resort just reading about it.
Precisely. And then the situation escalates dramatically at dinner.
Oh, no.
A waiter spills water on them. A seemingly accidental act, but followed by a knowing smirk that makes it feel very deliberate.
Uh-huh.
And then he says, right there in front of other guests, maybe you should think about why people don't want you here.
Wow. That's the quote that really stood out to me, too. It's such a blatant and hostile statement that it shifts the dynamic from inconvenience to open confrontation. What was your take on that moment?
I think that's the moment that forces Donald and Melania to take action. They realize they're being targeted and they call their security team and they begin documenting everything.
Yep.
But what's fascinating about this is this public humiliation may be exactly what the staff wanted.
Well, wait, are you suggesting that the staff may have intentionally provoked them to elicit this kind of reaction?
It's definitely a possibility worth considering, especially in today's world where controversy and viral moments can be exploited for attention.
That's a disturbing thought, but it makes a lot of sense in the context of what unfolds next. The confrontations don't end at dinner.
Right.
Later that night, they have a run-in with the manager and security guards who, instead of addressing their concerns, actually blame the Trumps for the disruptions.
Right.
It feels like they're being gaslit.
Yeah, and it reinforces the feeling that this is a coordinated effort. And the accounts you provided even detail another incident where they overhear staff members arguing outside their suite late that night. You know, further fueling this sense of being surrounded by hostility.
It sounds incredibly unsettling. Being in a luxury resort, a place that's marketed as a sanctuary,
Right.
and feeling so unwelcome and targeted must have been a really jarring experience.
Absolutely. But amidst all of this, there's this small act of kindness that gives them a glimmer of hope.
Okay.
The next morning, another guest, having witnessed the staff's behavior, approaches Melania and whispers words of support, assuring her that not everyone believes what they see in the media.
That must have been such a welcome moment of human connection in the midst of all that
I'm
negativity.
sure.
Seems like that interaction, small as it may be, plays a role in what happens next. Donald, fueled by a mix of anger and determination, demands to speak directly to the owner of the resort.
Right. Not just a manager.
He wants to get to the bottom of this.
Ex-
And that decision to escalate the situation proves to be pivotal. While waiting to meet with the owner, Donald observes a staff member using a walkie-talkie,
Uh-huh.
whispering something about keeping them contained and mentioning the plan. It solidifies his suspicion that something bigger is at play.
It's like a scene out of a thriller.
I know, right?
He's piecing together these clues, and he's starting to see the bigger picture.
He's putting it all together.
Yeah. And driven by this newfound suspicion, Donald returns to their suite and starts searching online.
Okay.
And what he finds confirms his worst fears. A video posted just hours earlier showing resort staff mocking them.
No way.
They imitate Melania's accent, make fun of their appearance, the whole 9 yards.
Oh my gosh.
It's clear they were being intentionally targeted.
So this video isn't just about bad service. It's about a deliberate attempt to humiliate them for entertainment and profit. It also explains the staff's behavior throughout their entire stay.
Exactly. And this video becomes crucial evidence for their legal team. But it's what happens next that really throws a wrench into everything. News of the video spreads quickly, and it ignites a firestorm in the resort lobby.
Wait, so now the other guests know about this video. Can't wait to hear what happens next.
Oh, yeah. Things are about to get interesting. It's like the video totally changed everything. You know, the guests who'd seen how the staff was acting firsthand and maybe even felt a little weird about it themselves, now they were seeing what was really going on.
Right. There's like that video ripped the facade right off.
Exactly. And the guests who were just watching before or even, joining in on the mocking a little, they started demanding answers from the manager.
Yeah, it's almost like a complete 180.
It is. It's a total power shift. The lobby becomes this battleground, full of accusations and a lot of people siding with the Trumps.
Wow. So the resort management, they were so dismissive before. Now they're facing like a full-blown guest revolt.
It's a total PR nightmare. Like, imagine that. You're the manager.
Yeah.
Talk about a bad day at the office.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And in all this chaos, something really amazing happens. A cleaning staff member walks right up to Melania and secretly slips her a piece of paper.
And this little act of bravery, well, it totally changes the game.
What was on the paper?
So the note, it had a list of staff names with these weird notes next to them, and one of them actually said, target high-profile guests to drive online buzz.
So it wasn't just a couple of bad employees. It was like a whole plan.
A coordinated
Orchestrated by the resort itself.
Exactly. And the goal, create controversy, get attention. And they were using their guests to do it, even the Trumps.
It's kind of scary to think about. Even in a super fancy place like that, people can be so focused on money and attention that they forget about treating people, right?
It's true. And the fallout was fast and harsh. Firings bookings dropped. The resort's reputation was trashed. I mean, think about it. It went from this luxury getaway to a place known for mistreating people.
Yeah, it's like that whole image of luxury and escape.
Yeah.
It just vanished.
It's a classic example of what happens when you care more about hype than doing the right thing. But there's a bright spot in all of this. Melania, she doesn't just complain about what happened. She uses it to say something important.
What did she say?
She said, "This is what happens when people think it's okay to dehumanize others for a laugh or for attention. It's not just wrong, it's dangerous."
It's powerful because it's not just about her anymore. It's about everyone.
Exactly. And get this. Even Donald, who isn't exactly known for being thoughtful, he agrees. He starts talking about how important it is to fight back against mistreatment, no matter who you are or what you believe.
So they both turned this awful experience into something good.
They did. They used their platform to promote kindness, respect, and holding people accountable.
And it worked. I mean, the story went viral, but not just for the gossip.
Right. People started talking about ethics, the responsibility of businesses to treat their customers, right? And the power of social media to hold people accountable.
It's like their experience opened everyone's eyes to a much bigger problem.
It did. And it also shows that even people like the Trumps who seem to have it all, they can still be taken advantage of.
Yeah, it's like a reminder that everyone deserves basic respect, no matter who they are.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about that cleaning staff member. She risked her job to tell the truth.
Right? She could have just stayed quiet, but she didn't. She spoke up.
And it made all the difference. Her bravery brought the whole thing down. It really shows you that one person can make a huge impact.
And the good stuff doesn't stop there. The owner, he apologized publicly and donated to a workers' rights group.
You know, sometimes even in the middle of a huge mess like that, real change can happen.
So we've talked about what happened, the motivations and the fallout. What's the big takeaway from all of this?
One of the biggest things I see is the importance of thinking critically. especially now when we're bombarded with information all the time. This case is a perfect example of why we need to stop and think, question what we see and hear, and look at things from different angles before we jump to conclusions.
Yeah. It's easy to just focus on the drama. But when you look deeper, there's always more to the story than you think at first.
Exactly. And this case really makes you think about how we consume media.
Right.
We need to be smarter about the information we take in, especially now when fake news and clickbait are everywhere.
Like when this whole thing first came out, it would have been easy to think, oh, it's just another celebrity complaining. But when you look closer at all the different sides of it, you see a much bigger problem.
It's like what started as bad service turned into this whole web of power struggles, media manipulation, and people being brave enough to do what's right.
And it wasn't just about figuring out one scandal. It was about understanding what it all means and how it connects to bigger issues. It's like a reminder that things aren't always what they seem, and sometimes you have to dig a little deeper to find the truth.
And it shows how important it is for people to act. Like that cleaning staff member, she could have kept quiet, but she chose to speak up even though it was risky. And that made all the difference.
Right, her courage changed everything.
It shows that even when you feel powerless, you can still make a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the big question that sticks with you?
Well, I keep thinking about this. If you were in the Trump shoes, what would you have done?
Ooh, that's a good one. Would you have just put up with it, hoping it would stop? Or would you have fought back, even knowing how much attention and backlash you might get?
It's a tough situation. A lot of people deal with this kind of thing. Maybe not as publicly, though. But this case gives us some things to think about. When you're facing those hard choices, it helps us understand how power works and how much impact one person can have.
We started out trying to figure out what happened at that resort in Scottsdale. But I think we learned a lot more than that. We saw how power can be used in bad ways, and how important it is to stand up for what's right, even when it's tough.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. And the more we understand these kinds of situations, the better we can handle the crazy world we live in. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.